It is once again time for us to enlighten the world on all things important with Brian Red, Jay Brannan, and myself. Now you guys can say smart things.
Cool. I don't know how to say anything smart.
Yeah, well, this show's going to be going down.
Are my levels okay tonight?
I think so. I think we're pretty good. I was noticed that earlier, so it sounded good. As we were talking about, what it's going to take for Jay to run for the California governor. We were pretty excited about that. And maybe we should
4-day work week.
4-day work week. He's
optional beaches. I got a plan.
He's got a platform. He's got
happy hour starts at 12:01 and ends at 11:59.
Yeah, there's those 2 minutes where people will riot in the streets.
We got to clean. Yeah,
but they do have to clean. So there is that.
Just got to clean.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you for being with us tonight. Tonight, gentlemen, what I want to dig into a little bit is we're starting to get a little better feel for what weddings are going to be like going forward and maybe even into next year. And I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what DJs should be looking for to add maybe to their shows or their business for next year, and what they should be really focusing on when it comes to putting their services together to serve these new weddings and the new types of weddings that we're going to be doing and seeing for the next maybe 12 months, maybe 18 months, depending upon how things play out. So that's really the discussion I wanted to get into. And Brian, you've been working on a lot of gear videos and such, so I figured we'd kind of start with you and see what you're hearing, seeing, and feeling as we go forward.
Well, I mean, it's all speculation at this point. We don't know what things are going to look like, but what I've been, I guess, kind of talking about since this whole thing manifested was, maybe we should start thinking about smaller events and maybe the big events are something we won't be doing a lot of, in the foreseeable future. So, those are the kind of things I like to keep in mind. And that is everything from light show to sound system and even performance, I think, with a more intimate feel kind of thing. That's just kind of my intuition on the whole thing, and it seemed to kind of be true. With what little I've done or seen. Things are typically on the smaller side. Either they have to be, or people just choose to make them that way.
Jay, have you been seeing in your area that people are trying to do more things outdoors? Have you guys been experiencing that yet?
Well, it's funny. I looked over the paperwork, and with the exception of one wedding in 2020, every single wedding I have booked is outside. I'm primarily at 2 or 3 different venues, and they're all outside. At best, you're under a gazebo top with no walls for dancing. Dinner might have a cover, but no walls. So I think people that were inside are trying to get outside, and a lot of venues offer that. I had an August 8th wedding that just postponed until next April. They were inside. They were the only inside wedding. And when I met with the bride a month ago, I said, this is a concern being inside. What's the venue saying? What are your thoughts? I said, I'm going to protect me, but as your DJ, I want to make sure that you're protecting you. And I've got to be honest, inside might be tough for dancing. So either let's have a game plan of different types of music and change the timing around a little bit so that maybe we can get away with not quite the party. Well, we really want to party. I said, then ask them if you can move the dance floor outside. I mean, I hate to say it, but if the dance floor is outside, my argument would be put me outside. I'll put a speaker inside for dinner, and then I'll remain outside the whole night. Mm-hmm. And that's not uncommon, looking at the big picture. But she called me about a week after she hired me and said, the venue's concerned about being inside, so we are moving it outside. Yeah. Great. Now we're outside. Now we're into next April. But I think the biggest thing, and I gave this some thought today, when I started doing weddings, more than occasionally, I was with a yacht company. And what I learned then that I still do today, even if there's a coordinator, I write a timeline for every single client I meet without an exception. And that's because coming from yachts, boats, you're on a time frame that doesn't stop. If you leave the dock and you say, oh, we've got to come back in half an hour, that half an hour is really an hour because it's 15 in, tie up, get the person, 15 back. So you lost that hour. It's not coming back to you later. So I think DJs moving forward are really going to have to evaluate what their timing is to have a nice flow and maybe tweak it. The famous, I can't tell you how many times I meet with a client and they go, oh, we've met with 5 DJs and they already told us we're having 3 hours of dancing. I'm like, how many hours is the wedding? They're like 5 hours. I'm like, and they told you 3 hours. She's like, yeah. They said hour dinner, hour cocktail, 3 hours dancing. I'm like, okay, that's impossible. It's utterly impossible. And I'll show you why. And then I write them out a timeline for 250 people with a buffet. And they're like, wow, we're only getting a little over 2 hours. I'm like, yeah. So I think we're going to have to be conscious of timelines. And I think we're going to have to look at what we're comfortable with. Because I think we as DJs have a bad habit of saying to the world, look, we can do cold sparklers. Look, we can do uplights. Look, we can do trivia. Look, we can do photo booth. We tend to paint with a really wide brush. I might suggest to some of my clients, let's get together and do a trivia thing about the two of you or about your families. Let's look at your guests and say, are they all around the same age? Let's find a sweet spot and maybe come up with something that's going to take 10 or 15 minutes in blocks. Because I don't want to do a wedding where I'm suddenly Alex Trebek for an hour.
Sure.
I don't want to be that guy. That's not what I do for a living. But I don't mind taking 10 or 15 minutes here, 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 and here, and taking up an hour throughout the night, by saying, hey, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. Brian and I have talked, and I think we've done it on the show as well, about, things like yacht rock. Styles of music are going to change a little bit because you can enjoy it, but it's not as prevalent for dancing, let's say. The issue. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jay. How much time do you typically have to kill in an event? And I say that in the nicest way. I have to do typically 4+ hours of filler with dancing and stuff. What do you find that you have to do?
I have a wedding coming up in 2 weeks. I'll start prelude at 4. 4:30 to 5 will be the ceremony, and then 5 to 10. So I'll do a cocktail hour, dinner, and then between toasts and first dance and things like that. So there's a few hours in there.
You're only looking at a couple of hours for the way you structure things where you're at. Typically, I think, John, it's very similar for you. We're looking at an after dinner block of time for up to 4 hours, right?
Yeah, very, very common. We're doing a 6 to 7 hour day.
Midwestern stuff.
Yeah.
So
you get done with dinner and you're looking at 6 hours afterwards, or 4 hours?
4 to 5 hours sometimes. Yeah. That's the time we have to fill. So that's why, I mean, God, if I only had to do an hour or two of it, I don't know if I'd want to be a DJ. I hate everything else about this job. I like to play dance music part.
Oh yeah, that's the fun of it. So
we get a lot of that. I mean, but it's a struggle because you got long nights.
I talked to Christian. Christian's got a 4:00 ceremony with a wedding that ends at 2 a.m. And I'm like, how?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is this humanly possible? And he's like, well, we have an MC and the sun goes down at 10. I'm like, you still have 4 hours? Like, no disrespect. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot. And I'm not saying people aren't amazing DJs, but a 4 straight hour dance floor in any environment with a crowd that's not clubby or normally dancing a lot.
Welcome to my world, dude.
And see, that's
what I do.
But see, that's the beauty
of John does.
Right. But that's the beauty out here.
Yeah.
I've got that 2.5, sometimes.
You know what I could do in 2 hours? It's like,
that's why it's always full. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It's full because they don't have the time not to dance.
John, can you imagine
here and running up
the cool sets that you could do? You don't have to worry about any filler or anything. You only got to play for 2 hours.
You could start with sports, and you could get them all into a 4. Yeah, that'd be great.
But that's just the timing out here. Also, you got to realize the majority of my events are local, which means they end at 10 because of noise ordinance, because they're outside. Yeah, so here's something else to consider. Are your events outside, or are they inside?
Dude, we've got like 3 months of outside, and after that, everything's inside.
It's got to be inside.
So you're still doing the 4-hour dancing inside?
Yeah.
Either way, yeah. It's because
there's not a lot of outside stuff. Once in a while, I'll get a tent, a marquee event, but most of the time there's like maybe a ceremony outside because it's nice to go outside and do that, but the
Right.
dancing typically will take place indoors. And
Well,
then
and
John,
you're
I'm
going to
sure
see this different.
experiences.
You know, back east, I did a wedding with Sound City Events a couple years ago. I mean, ceremony started at 5. The event ended at 10. It's 5 hours of the ceremony. So that one was cut back even more, and it was twice what my weddings cost. And I'm like, I'm in the wrong market. So, you know, I think when it's all said and done, whatever time you do have, you have to determine the flow because it's too easy to slip. And by slip, my wedding I did in June, I kept telling everybody, I'm really going to approach the dancing slow. They got done with cake, first dance, father, daughter, mother, son, and I went. And it was on for 2 straight hours. And I surprised myself because I didn't back off at all. And I thought I would. I thought I was going to control the event. And then I realized that's not my job. I'm the DJ. I'm not the COVID police.
Well,
And that was the one I got all the flack for. And now my wedding in August, you know, I don't know. I haven't spoken to the bride. It's through an agency. So I'll get a better feel for it. I mean, it won't be crazy, crazy. The requests so far have just been middle of the road stuff. You know, wants a lot of Beyonce. That's not going to happen. But
well, every
you know,
time that you and I have spoke about this, I've made the suggestion that maybe it's time to reimagine this, and not think of it as ceremony, cocktails, dinner, dancing. Maybe
right.
the way to try to think about this is maybe a prolonged cocktail and then a dinner and then a little bit of something afterwards with dances and stuff and thank you, good night. And I know that you and a lot of your clients, you feel, would not even kind of be down with that. It's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think the younger ones, they've made it very clear to me that they want this crazy party. The under 30 brides have all been very, very clear about like, I know times are tough, but we're going to rage.
The thing is that you can't always get what you want.
And I think,
but you know what? I mean, explaining that to a bride and telling her it's in her best interest to not have the party she wants. I understand it's possible.
This is always going to be our argument, and I totally get that. But what I'm saying is the alternative is not to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I realize that. But that's like
what
I said,
I'm getting at. You can either do
totally
this or nothing. And it's not my call. I just feel like that's maybe where venues are going to go.
Well,
don't you, John?
I think there's going to be a level of that, but I think that this or nothing, we've got some brides who I've already gotten the call from a couple who have just decided to pull the plug for next year. And I think you're going to see more of that as they get to the point where it's like, we don't know if we can have it next year. And I can't emotionally go through that again. And they're going to pull the plug, even though because they want to have that wedding. And if they can't have that wedding, they are just not going to put it off anymore. And they're going to do something simple. And they're going to tell themselves the fallacy. They're going to sell it to themselves and say, we're going to have like a 1-year anniversary party and we'll just celebrate big then. No, you're not.
I just did that with a doctor and a nurse for an October wedding because their relatives are older and they don't feel they'll be able to travel, nor do they want to put them through that. And he's like, we're going to get married anyway, but we're going to have the wedding that you and I and Christine talked about next October because we feel it'll be cleared up by then. Things are moving in the right direction. And I was like, wow, you have such a great attitude. He's like, I was a Marine. I was over in the Middle East. And every morning you'd wake up and go, wow, beautiful sunny day, knowing someone might shoot at you. So we had an expression that was called embrace the suck. And that's what we're viewing our wedding as. Like, this is not what we planned. It's not what we want, but we're going to get through it and move forward. But they're going to do it next year for just what everyone has said, because they want that wedding, and I'm not in a position to go to my clients and say, hey, it's time we reevaluate everything. And this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to make suggestions of, you know what? And my only concern with what Brian said, and again, where I am in my market, every position has a vendor. So there's a florist, there's a cake maker, there's a caterer, there's a DJ, videographer, photographer. You're now playing with their timelines. So if you somehow say to the bride, hey, let's extend happy hour by 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, we'll do this, we'll eat later. you're going to have kickback from other vendors
for
going,
sure.
we feed them at 6 because we're out of here by 8.
Mhm.
So telling us we're going to feed them at 6:30, 6:45, that's not going to work. So I think there has to be a collective in the industry that sort of says, how are we going to give somebody what they want while delaying it a little bit? And I think once you tell a bride you're delaying it or cutting it back or anything, I think the kickback's not going to be fun.
I never suggested that we dictate this.
No. But suggesting the timing change, I think the issue becomes other vendors who are going to go, whoa, no.
Mhm.
Well, again, this is all kind of something that the venue might want to do, or something the venue is comfortable with, or they feel like they can do. And the vendors are going to have to deal. It's either that or don't work. If that's what it comes out to. Now, I don't know. Now, I've made predictions
right
that have come. It's worked out. I've said things and people said, nah, Brian, ain't going to happen. Happened.
Right.
I think this one.
The prediction of the venue doing it, I don't think that's going to happen. I'll tell you up front, because I think
I know you don't. You didn't think anything else I said was going to happen either, and it happened.
I gave a couple things some credence, but the venues changing their minds, I think the venues have it in their head that, like, this is how it's going to go. I need my money. Let's go.
Well, it's going to be a matter of what they can do. They're going to have to. It's going to come. I think it's going to come to the point where they're going to have to actually submit a plan to stay in business. Say, this is what we propose to do, and to keep it safe. This is our capacity. This is the activity. This is the time. This is how it's going to work. I don't know. I don't know, but I do know we can't do what we used to do right now. We're going to have to do something.
But people are still going to
not do it at all, or something different.
Right. You got to realize though, you guys are in the Midwest. I'm in California. Do you know how insane it is in California? The news starts today with an LASD, like, sheriff's department party at a bar that's been closed for 2 months with the windows open and everyone looking in. There's 100 people in there partying their brains out with no masks, dancing and partying. And these are the people that are in charge of saying who, can wear, who's supposed to wear a mask and who's supposed to stay open. Now, granted, they're kicking back saying, no, it wasn't us, but there was a party. Then there was another party that one of the local helicopters caught up in Beverly Hills with like 200 people at a house.
Mm-hmm.
DJ out there on the balcony, everyone by the pool, no mask. Of course, it ends up in a shooting later on. So that got publicity. People are going to do what they want because they have this sense of entitlement because it is a private event. And that's why I disagree to an extent that venues will ever propose, hi, welcome to Jay's wedding venue. Here's our plan that I'm submitting to who? Department of Health? Because then I'm putting myself on the hook for making sure these things happen. They're putting up a hand sanitizer. A bottle of Purell in the corner of a venue is about as much as you're going to see in some cases. Other venues are being adamant about, Christian did a wedding the other night. They had blue dots on the dance floor that were 6 feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like some sort of crazy swinger, like where's the Mazzola oil twister game. But that's a venue that takes it exceptionally serious, Canada. Down here, I think they have the best intention until everyone shows up and the first bottle of champagne is open. And then it's like, yay, we don't have to worry.
Mm.
But, I was thinking about that. I mean, maybe it's a situation where they can do dinner. Maybe they can't be open until midnight. I don't know. And John and I live, 7 hours apart?
Mm-hmm.
At least. So we're not even close to each other. But I think John and I have both seen a trend in the last few years with our weddings, and it is that they have gotten smaller by design.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not big blowout parties anymore like they used to be. And they're not ragers. They're just weddings. And they're nice, but they're not as big. They're more intimate.
Right.
So
what's your average wedding size out there?
What do you got, John? I mean,
I've seen in the last probably 3 years, most of my weddings have been under 150 people. Probably more are going to be under 100. Somewhere in that 80 to maybe 80 to 100. So the most of them are.
$130, $125 is like the big ones. Those are the bigger ones now. Usually they're closer to 100 people or less.
Yeah, same here.
That's just the trend. It doesn't pay any different.
The 300, the 400. I haven't broken 300 in 4 years.
Yeah.
3 years. I did a 350 4 years ago. I haven't broken 400 or 500 in probably 7 years, and I might do 200 plus a year now. Whereas that was, it was 150 to 225. Now most of mine are 90 to 130 people roughly.
Yeah. Well, they used
So
to
I
be a lot
agree.
bigger.
It's gotten smaller and more intimate. And I
So
think people have wised up. They invite the people they want. It can't be every Tom, Dick, and Harry they've ever met.
yeah,
It's expensive.
My kid, well, both my kids got married last year, and Stevie insisted on a small wedding, and that's what she got. She wanted 50 people. She ended up with closer to 80 because, well, family happens, but she wanted 50. And my other daughter, she got married at the courthouse. She was going to have just us go down to Cancun this summer and do a proper thing, but obviously plans changed.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people around me are saying smaller events. I'm doing some stuff in October tentatively for some other family, and they want something smaller. My niece got married Saturday. Last Saturday, I guess. And she had 20 people. It's all she wanted.
Right.
It's a thing. I don't know. And I don't know. It's a structure thing, I guess. When I say reimagine things, I'm not suggesting we go in and tell the client what to do. What I'm saying is that if we can reimagine this, where we don't, especially people like John and I, 4 hours to kill, that's a lot.
That's ridiculous.
Indoors. So from our point of view, we have to do most of our events indoors because of where we live and the way things are. We don't have the season to do a lot of outdoor events.
Right.
So, I'm just thinking, gee, if we can be there for, if we need to do the ceremony, cocktail, dinner, and just a little bit of time after that and call it a day, maybe that's a different way to look at things. I don't know.
Well, I got to be honest with you, and this happens to me a lot. I get the big eyes of the client that's like, yeah, the ceremony's at 4 and we're going to midnight. And I'm like, okay, how many people? Excuse me. 100. Okay. Are they big partiers? No, not really. Okay. Are they from England, Ireland, or anywhere else in Europe? Nope. Okay. So they're all American. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and I'm sure that you guys can prove me wrong, but my 25 years of experience has shown me that the majority of wedding crowds I've had that go 8 hours that are all Americanos are in handcuffs and stretchers by 8 hour end. It's a nice dream, but the reality is that they don't do what the Europe, like when I do an Irish wedding or a Scottish wedding or an English and they go, it's 9 hours long, I'm fine because they eat, dance, and drink. They don't drink, and try to dance.
We do this weirdo thing up here where we handle our alcohol. It's weird.
It's a Cali thing. It's just shots. People.
I think it is. I remember living in California.
It is, I think too, because the happy hours are free usually, and then you pay for beer after. So people think it's a race. Like quickly drink. But what I do,
we're like German and Norwegian up here. So we're like
you guys use fish that have been stuffed in barrels with lye. Don't paint this picture, Mr. B. But what I'll do with these couples a lot of times then I'll tell you, let's do this. It starts at 4 and it goes till midnight. 4 to 5, we're gonna, ceremony, and we'll start cocktail. You're gonna eat about 6. Okay. Why don't you hire me till 10? And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you at 9:30 if I think you should extend me. And it'll be the same price per hour then that it is right now. Like it won't be more expensive. It won't be less expensive. Whatever you're paying me now, it'll be that divided by hourly afterwards. If you want to keep going and you feel comfortable, let's do it. But you're going to be up at 6 a.m. that day. You're going to be exhausted. It's adrenaline. It's the culmination of a lot of planning. Why not have a great wedding that ends at 9 or 10 than a good one that ends at midnight? So if you guys are up against 4 hours of dancing, why not try pitching, oh, what time's your ceremony? 4 o'clock. Okay, starts at 4? Yeah. So you're going to be done by 4:30, cocktail till 5:30. when are you going to eat dinner? About 5:45, 6 o'clock. Okay, and then you want me there till 11 or 12. How about I contract you till 9 or 10? And that way you cut the hours back on your own merit and just tell them you can extend me till midnight. You just pay the hourly on site. Because you may find that by 10 o'clock, they're exhausted and they don't need to see all these like plaid wearing, overall, strutting dudes on the dance floor going nuts. I mean, can you even drive a tractor out there after like midnight? Is that even legal?
Of course, we have lights, lots and lots of
Oh,
lights, big light bars.
this is ignorance on my behalf.
Yeah.
The
We're
orange
using
triangle.
cars.
We've got it set up. We've got it set up.
No, why not just cut the hours on your own? Forget
See,
this 4 hours.
and
If
Jay,
I
that's-
came to your town tomorrow and they said, "Yeah, we want to hire you from 4 to midnight," I'd put the brakes on immediately and be like, "Okay, cool, but let's try 9 or 10."
And that's a discussion we've had numerous times with clients over the years, is trying to go to that. I mean, my preference is I'd like to be done at 11, and that gets me home before, bar close, and there's just a
Yeah,
lot
and all
of
the
little
nuts
nuances.
are out.
So I like that. Trying to sell that or having that conversation is almost like having a conversation with the bride today when you're telling her,
Yeah.
there's COVID and we can't and we shouldn't and we should be this and that. And they're like, no, I don't want to hear that. I want this. So, we're probably, your day starts early, but come 10 o'clock, I think your guests are going to be tired and are going to be ready to call it a night. No, we're going to go till midnight because that's the way parties go. And
I can't wait till this is over with. Jay, please come up and do a couple of gigs with me in the summer. It'll blow your mind. It's a completely different animal up here than what you're used to.
But it
Because
would just
they'll
seem
go.
like-
I usually start my ceremonies around 3 and I'm done a little after midnight.
yeah.
That's a normal wedding. And it's not like it trickled away and died. You've seen my gig logs, they end strong.
No. Yeah, I have. And
It's
that's
a very, very different vibe. So
I mean, I see a lot of gig logs and I see that like my weddings and everyone else's, if I start with 150, I consider it a successful wedding if at the end of the night I've got 50 people,
Yeah.
40 people.
30.
To me, that's still a success in that the people that wanted to stay stayed and had fun,
Mhm.
and the other people that wanted to leave early still had a good time, but they just left earlier. So I don't gauge it on, damn, I want to end with the same number I started with. That's probably happened 3 times where I've literally had every single soul has been there, and you're like, man, this was one of the best weddings ever. And I hate to say it, but they were the big high-end weddings I've done. Like, the ones where you're like on the golf course in a really ritzy area and the client is throwing. I had one years ago where the client hired for 15 minutes. This was 10 years ago. The USC Trojan marching band. You make a contribution to the Alumni Association, and 9 members of the band in uniform with sunglasses at 9 at night show up. I got to introduce them to the dance floor, and they played for 15 minutes, ending with Tusk. And then they leave. And then I had the crowd till midnight. And it was like, that was 10 grand 10 years ago, just for that.
Goodness.
So weddings like that, yeah. But I think we have to be not better sales, but maybe just better communicators that, hey, I understand this is how it's always been, but guess what? We've never been on lockdown before. Use COVID as the excuse for, as it gets later, people breathe heavier and they spread illness. I don't know.
It's going to be very different challenges depending on where we're at. That's obvious. I mean,
Yeah, it's going to be hugely different. And that's the thing. I know for a fact so far, the people I've spoken with, and a lot of DJs feel this way, they kind of don't want to wear a mask. They don't want to deal with all this. I'm fine with wearing a mask, but there's a certain sense of, wait a second, I'm the only person here with a mask on.
Yeah. And that's.
Am I putting pressure on a client? And it's, I'm going to be blunt. It's a really uncomfortable position to be in. My June 22nd wedding. I mean, I had people flat out saying, don't put a mask on. Don't be that loser here. And I'm looking around me going like, man, I'm trying to get this through my head. Like, you people feel that way? And I don't want to get into the anti-mask versus this. But the reality is, if all I have to do is go like this, and you go like this, and then we're both okay, why would you not want to just at a wedding do that? There's a lot of topics that are going to come out of this discussion. this will go on much longer than the hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it will come down to, I have to take care of myself and my family and those that I'm exposed to. What can I do moving forward as a business to see that that happens? I think by first clearly telling your clients, you're not the COVID police. Your job is, and if they ask you to make sure people do that, you need to tell them up front that you're not going to. Because that's not my job. I'm not going to get on the mic. If they want me to get on the mic and tell people once, we're going to be practicing social distancing, that's great. But after that, I'm not going to play the COVID police.
No, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
No, we
that's-
shouldn't have
that's
to,
not
Brian,
your
but
position.
the
I
DJs
didn't
have
do it
ended
at
up
the
being
event I
lighting
did.
designers.
I didn't
I
do
know,
it at
but
the
you had
event.
you had a much different, let's be honest here. You had an entirely different schematic at your wedding. Like they got in touch with you. They wanted to make sure you were good. You were comfortable. You knew most of the people. It was family. It was a low, like that one was tailor made for today's conditions. Most people are not going to be like that.
I got pretty cool clients. I really do. I
I
don't
do
deal with
too.
knuckleheads
But Brian,
very well.
they didn't hire me to be distant. They hired me to jam the party and get the dance floor rocking.
Well, they didn't hire me because I suck either.
Well,
So it.
I didn't say they did,
shit.
but I'm saying they came to you knowing you.
They
in
knew
particular-
exactly who I was when they hired me. And,
Right.
And
I think you're missing that point, though. It's more about you got it right in the middle of all this, so it was primed for let's do this right. I think moving forward, you're not going to see that. I mean, you go on Facebook. How many DJs are posting that they're having these raging weddings right now? What are you telling me? Every state but California is okay now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I find it hard to believe. I don't care. Iowa, I'm seeing Iowa weddings where there's 100 people on a dance floor raging. What, Iowa doesn't have a case now? Come on. So I think the truth is weddings are going to be the way weddings have been.
Okay.
We've got to figure some way to get in the middle of it, keep ourselves safe first.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't. I really, when we start talking safety and we start talking these different aspects of it, you almost feel like you're turning off the young couples because they don't want to think about those types of things. The
I'm kind of with you. I mean,
reality of
I agree.
And
I'm willing to do so much, but then it's like that's enough.
Yeah, but we
right
come
now
first.
until we get the all clear, you know.
And I almost wonder if how much of this discussion is going to become completely moot because it is all out of our control, really. It's the venue that is going to have that. And you're going to get to that point. I mean, we're seeing it on the East Coast that venues are building or, renting or leasing a tent for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be seeing that in a variety of different spots, but that's the venue, and the venue has to do what they're going to need to do because their insurance companies are saying, we might legally be able to have 50% of our people inside, but there's no stopping the lawsuit. And yes, we can have people sign a waiver, but as soon as we tell a couple that, oh, by the way, we need to have all of your guests sign a waiver, that's not going to fly.
That's not going to fly.
And yet it is part of that discussion that's going on a lot right now.
I think because they're outside, they truly believe it's okay. That's the problem. And I'm not saying it's not okay, but I'm literally going to be standing at the edge of a dance floor with a table with gear, and then there's just the open sky and space and a dance floor. And I think that mentality has come in with, oh, we got nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, everything's still the same. You're just outside. So and it's difficult. I think that's the biggest challenge that we have is we were hired to do something that's difficult at best right now. But from what I've seen of myself and other people, I think we're getting stuck in the switches of we hit play on Usher, yeah, and everyone comes out and you go, oh, I'm going to follow it with this. Oh, wait till I get up to Billie Jean. Oh, I'm going to do Cake by the Ocean. And next thing you know is you're back to being a DJ and you forget what's going on around you. And it's difficult. I mean, Brian, you've been a DJ longer than I have. Have you ever been in a position where you've gone through a period of time where you've had to look at things differently as a DJ?
Oh, absolutely.
When?
Yeah, I mean, things change.
But I'm saying like this, where things change and then they probably are going to go back.
Well,
like I've never had to I was never concerned.
I don't
with
think this is,
terrorism at my
but I don't
weddings
think this is one of those situations where things are going to go back because there's some aspects of this. So when you're talking to some of the international and even some of the national, very well respected epidemiologists in this, they're saying that this is first off not going to go away, and what we do as a society, there's going to be some things that are going to change and may be completely different. And people come back and they say, "Oh, let's look back at the 20s, the 1918 thing, and everything. Well, the Roaring 20s came, and everyone was ready to party after that was over." No, the Roaring 20s was caused because of a different situation. It had nothing virtually at all to do with the virus and that being over. It was just a situation that all of a sudden you had mass production capabilities that were never there before, and money and different things all came together.
And prohibition.
And yeah, there was just so many things that hit at the right time
Well,
to cause the
fun things.
Roaring 20s to happen. It wasn't because people were excited to be getting out and partying again.
I don't know. There will eventually be something that will resemble normal. I remember in my lifetime, I remember being on an airplane flying to, where was I going? I was going to Wichita, Kansas. That's where I was going. The first time I ever on a plane, going to see my brother, and I was smoking the whole way on a commercial airline. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you couldn't do it anymore. And then I remember sitting on a Qantas flight going to Australia with a pair of scissors and a knife and a fingernail file, doing my nails on the way there because they were long and stuff. And I had a knife on the plane, and it was fine. I remember walking to the gate to see my dad fly away on business trips. And of course that all changed. Now we have to go through this process. You can't have anything sharp. You can't even bring liquids on the plane.
Yeah.
But we still fly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little different. That's all.
It's changed. It's not the old normal where we could give people a hug at the gate. It evolves, and what that means for what we're doing in the entertainment world when it comes to weddings and such is going to be yet to be seen.
Yeah, we don't know.
What that changes would be, and
we're gonna fly again. We're gonna.
See, that's the thing. Everything you're saying makes total sense, and it's the adjustment period. But the act of what you did, when I smoked on a plane, it was because the rear of the plane was smoking. There's still a rear of the plane. It just doesn't have an ashtray. I'm still flying.
Right.
And I think that's where weddings are. I don't know that there's a lot of wiggle room to say, because I think ultimately you begin discussing, do you need a DJ? Do you need a reception? Would it be cheaper to have 10 of your close family and friends in a restaurant, have a nice meal after the ceremony, have a toast, and then call it a day, and then buy a new house?
The conversation I'd like to have about all of this, it seems like it's either all or nothing, and I'm thinking there's something in between, because we do more than just rock the house. We are back in support for toasts and speeches and microphones, and we're doing background music, and we're doing timelines. We're doing a lot of things.
Right.
So I see a place for us, even if we can't be there for this extended period of time, or a dance floor isn't something they're really providing for us anymore. I still see a place for us for a lot of different things.
Am I the only one hearing Barbara Streisand, by the way?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I don't know where you got.
I was hearing Bette Midler, but that was just me.
The Way We Were, or Guilty. Enough is Enough. That was
What I'm hearing. What's this? Isn't there Barbara Streisand? There's a Place for Us. I don't know if that's the name of the track. Where's Brian K when I need him? Is he in the room?
No, I don't think I've seen Brian tonight. But that's kind of the direction I wanted to go with the show a little bit, is as we look into it, there's going to be changes that we are going to have to make, and what types of services or offerings, or maybe focus when we're talking, we're sharing what we bring to the table. How that's going to be, how that will be different. I mean, at one time, there was a, wow, you're going to, you hire me and you're going to have this hop and dance floor that's going to be going all night. And they're going to talk about your wedding being the best party ever. The old 3 words, what do you want your wedding to be? And it's like, I want it to be a kick-ass party. Those were the 3 words.
Right.
That was very common. And I think those days, while the desire might be there, the reality is like, I'd love to be able to do that, and we can do some things, but there's so many more things that are going to be really cool, and we can make that day fun and entertaining and make it a family event that people will be like, "Oh, I'm just glad I took the time to go there."
It's kind of where what I'm thinking too. I got a call from a client. Big Ron sent them my way because this is what's happening. They're getting a lot of cancellations, and it's getting kicked the next year, and they can't.
They're all piling up. Yeah.
You can only do one wedding at a time, so I'm getting a lot of the residuals from that, which is nice. Thanks, Ron. But I'm thinking about our conversation, and I hadn't thought of this really until you brought it up. What she wanted to know about was, we're going to get married on the other side of the pond, opposite the barn, and there's no power over there. What would you do for something like that?
Right.
I got a battery powered system. Oh, great. That's perfect. Now we're going to be in a barn. And we're going to do dinner in there with toasts and things. Do you have a system that would do that? Yeah, I do. Those are the things we talked about. We didn't talk once about dancing or even lights. We were talking about back-end support, which is what we do. And I brought that up earlier, and that's kind of what I was saying. We're doing mics for ceremony and sound for it and timelines, and there's value there, and people still want that. So I don't know.
I think that's going to come up more too. And I think we're going to be able to tweak things. And I think the battery is going to be a big deal, because you're going to get people that are going to go, yeah, we're going to move it to that field, or we're going to move it to this vineyard in the middle, or we're going to move it here. And we're going to have more opportunities to flex our muscles when it comes to service/gear provider.
There's a lot of different routes you can go with it. There's stuff out there. You can do this with.
We have vineyards that people get married in the middle of them and stuff, and you're dead in the center of a vineyard where there's a space cut out.
Sure.
And they tell you venues will tell you coming into it, we've already got our battery system set up there. It's like, oh, can I tap into it or get a generator? I mean, we don't have a lot of barns and ponds, but if we did, that would be just another good example.
It's probably very similar to what you're doing with vineyards. I mean,
it absolutely is. That's my point.
Quaint rule. The barn thing isn't like a hoedown, just so you don't idea on this. That would be funny, John, wouldn't it? If they were hoedowns. Maybe you're having hoedowns where you're at. We're not having hoedowns.
No, we're not just so much. No,
there are no hose down at these places. It's
no, because they're usually standing.
Yeah, it's just a rustic kind of thing, but quite elegant, really.
Yeah,
but that's it. I think every market's going to have a twist on it. I wonder. I have one client for next year who's already inquiring about doing trivia during dinner. And I'm like, oh, okay. Can you give me a better general sense of what that entails? So she's kind of coming up with a game plan, and I'm sure it's something we can tweak, and I'll give my concerns about time and, let them guests talk to each other at the tables as well. Maybe start it as trivia questions that they then answer towards the end of the meal. I don't know if you guys ever did this where you are. When Survivor first came on TV, 10 years, 15 years, whatever ago.
20.
There was this, was it 20? God.
I think it's got to be, yeah.
There was a big push at weddings to do the Survivor for the buffet. So like the table, instead of having an order, you would ask a question or you would do something and each table would collectively answer you. And then that would determine when they get to go up to eat.
We don't dismiss tables. I never have. That's catering. But
out here, a lot of it's DJs now.
Yeah.
It's become a DJ responsibility.
Not here.
Yeah. Well,
that's
you got that going for you. Yeah, no, I wish. Yeah. I wish. One venue I have, catering always does it. The other one, the catering is like literally the three guys making the tacos on the buffet in the back. So there's no one there to say, oh, come on up.
Yeah.
Every market's a little different. I mean, basically the catering knows what pacing they want up there.
Right.
I mean, who am I to determine that? They're keeping an eye on that. They're pros. They're good at what they do, so they do that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. The last wedding I did, the bride called me and said, "Hey, my sister had this great idea. Just something to fill some time. Let's do this shoe game, which you guys have seen."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a shoe game guy. It's not something I do unless somebody asks for it. I said, yeah, sure, we can do it. So, a really good time to do that would be probably maybe after your grand entrance before dinner, or we could do it maybe before your first dance. Or I was coming up with all these different ways
Yeah.
where we could insert this activity, because in my brain, I am so programmed to try to make things tight and not interrupt dancing.
Right.
Yep.
And I thought about it. Like, after I got off the phone with her, and later that evening, I'm like, wait a minute. We could do this after the first dance or 15 minutes in to break things up or whatever we want to do. Because this is a time killer.
Absolutely.
And this is probably exactly what we're looking for. Because yeah, 4.5 hours of dancing, not unusual. And, I can do it. And I hate interruptions during it because it's hard to get it going again. But maybe I want the interruptions now. And maybe we can do things like that. I don't know. It just seems like there could be a different time structure on some of this stuff.
I think because of travel, I always try to have clients get involved with their flow and say to them, you can kind of do things up front. You can kind of do things in the middle. You can kind of wait till the end. You can do them all together. You can split it up. You can do this. You can do that. What do you feel most comfortable with? And just about always, they want to just have as much dancing as is possible. Totally understand. But I've always tried to do like the anniversary dance. I don't know if you guys are big on the anniversary dance. Just the married couples come out. You ask them to leave the floor if they're married less than a certain amount of time. You end up with a couple married the longest. Sometimes if the bride's not doing the throw bouquet, I tell her to give it to the couple married the longest. It's a nice gesture. And out here, people really enjoy it. Well, it's also when I tell them if they want to do the shoe game, when to do the shoe game is somewhere around there or after cake. Because that's generally out here when you start to lose the LA crowd who have to drive. Or the older folks as it gets really dark in the wine country who then want to leave.
Yeah. Yep,
so it's a good way to keep the older folks entertained with the shoe game because it's innocent. It's not, you don't have, and I always, I'll get the questions and then edit.
Edit them down.
Make sure it's like,
clean them
who
up.
who made breakfast for who first kind of thing. Like, why don't we skip that one and we'll do this one? And but it's definitely an opportunity. I guess I didn't realize you guys were sitting on 4.5 hours.
Yeah, we sit on a long time.
Yeah, that's very normal.
We gotta hit a couple of things here in the chat room here. We've got a lot of chats going on, especially on Facebook. Thank you guys for being with Dave and Brian here have been commenting a lot in on Facebook. One of them was
I thought he meant me. I'm like, it's actually Jay.
Yeah, no. So somebody asked about the responsibility as we go forward of like for a multi-system company, the business owners, and you guys were talking about keeping ourselves safe as the sole proprietor or the single op, but you've got companies out there that have employees and they're going to be worried about keeping their employees safe during this.
Right.
What are your thoughts on how to be able to tackle that beast?
Safe from who?
Safe during this time of guests coming up who aren't wearing a mask, are doing this, doing that, and could be getting them.
Yeah,
sick.
I mean, it's scary. This is stuff they're going to have to work out.
Yeah.
At the wedding that I was at, they had it set up initially as, buffet style. And what it ended up being was cafeteria style, sort of, where you would take a plate and there were people behind glass who you pass the plate under to them. They would take it and put stuff on it for you or above, or I don't know what it was. Blanca went up and got the food there. I didn't go there, but yeah, so they were trying to be as careful as they could, with the masks and gloves and the glass. The bartender, I don't know. What are you going to do? I don't know how they're going to handle this. I really don't.
I think there's going to be a lot of calls to lawyers.
Oh yes, that is.
I've already been told in no uncertain terms that if I have it, I go do a wedding and somebody gets it from me as a business, I can be sued.
Well, you can be sued for anything for anything.
You could be listed on a lawsuit, regardless. Yeah. But if you were,
right. But this is now just one more. I mean, if somebody falls while they're dancing, they could sue you because you played the music. Is it going to go anywhere? No, but it's going to be a suit. But this one's a little more scary because now, and that's why, I think you're going to find that people aren't going to put themselves in that position. If I had somebody working for me I'd probably, I don't have anyone now, but I have done this in the past. I would more than likely want to have them sign some sort of a waive holding me harmless. At least, I don't know how that works. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not dispensing legal information. But if I worked for a DJ company, full time, part time, and they sent me into the field to do events, I'm sure I would want that the company would want something as would I, because I'm sure you're going to start to see, you know, independent contractors who are going to start showing up with their own piece of paper going, hey, can you sign this, John?
Yeah.
What's this say, Jay? This says that if I get COVID at one of your weddings, you're paying for all my rehab. What?
Yeah.
This says that
I don't know if
$100
$100 to help a guy out for a night is worth me signing my life away on a piece of paper like that.
Yeah, but some guy that does 3 weddings a week for you as a multi-op, making $800-900 a wedding, you know, that's $100,000 a year. They may want to sign it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's not the $100 guy.
And you think about that, let's just say one of the staff members, we're doing the DJ thing, and we have somebody who's running the photo booth as an example. And we want to have social distancing, we want to have, but just the nature of the photo booth, you're going to have people who are close as they come and stand next to you as the prints come off or however. And as the boss of, you don't want to be, you know, you want to maybe reset things so that there is a little bit of safety and maybe tables to have that separation. But you can't go in as the boss and say, you know, no, you need to be standing right there so you can just turn around and hand the things. Or you need to be over on the table and cutting and handing a picture so they can write whatever. If you start to dictate in a situation or a way in which it's not safe for that person because they're not having that social distancing, you're opening up yourself to a whole huge can of worms. And I can see where Christopher is, you know, bringing in a team of 8 people to an event, you know, that might be photographers or video, whatever it is. I could see that being just a really messy situation really, really quick.
I think everybody is going to have a new role in all of this. And I didn't think I would have said this a month or two ago, but I'm kind of glad I've only really got one wedding in August, because my mentality in June was, thank God I'm back to work. This is great. And then as the night wore on, I was like, holy blank, this is terrifying. Like people are just like, they don't care.
I've got one coming up in October. It's
I've got like 7 in October if they go.
Yeah, well, I've got more than one in October if they go, but I've got one for sure that I know is going to happen one way or the other. It's another family thing, but on my side this time. And I'll have some control on this one. I mean, this is one where I can step in because I'm Uncle Brian on this one, and I can. It's going to be.
But that's the luxury you have in that. It's the ones that you're not Uncle Brian that are going to be scary.
Well, yeah, I guess, but
I mean, you kind of. I don't know. You have to admit, you kind of have your like center of the road. Here I go. It's me. This is how I'm going to do it. I think there's a lot of businesses that don't have the experience, the cachet, or maybe, you know, the intestinal fortitude that you have to look at this from the position of it'll go the way I need it to go. There's a lot of guys that are struggling out there.
Yeah, I know.
Who, if I told them somebody was positive at their wedding, they'd still go.
Yeah.
Like they don't care. They need the money.
Yeah, they've got to be there.
Like you're screwing with livelihood. That's a road you don't want. People kill over dollars.
And
trust and respect are important. I mean, if you can earn it with your client, and you know, I just like I told my last client, I'm like, I'm going to be as optimistic as you are. You know, let's be safe, but let's have fun. Let's do what we can. And they were very, you know, that's what they wanted too. It was a great match. If they would have came to me and said, yeah, we're going to have all these people and it's going to be this great party and we're going to, you know, I said, you know what? Maybe I'm not your guy. I probably would have passed. I mean, and can I afford to? No, I can't. But I also can't afford to put myself in jeopardy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the scale that's so out of whack right now. You know, I mean, one of our DJs from Pioneers, he just did his 7th event. He sent a video out. And there's a good 30 or 40 people. They had the groom up on a chair above everyone. I mean, it was a raging wedding. It was, you know, somewhere in the South. And I'm like, what's the rules there? And he's like, well, I'm an hour from home. So he's somewhere in Virginia, I guess, West Virginia. He's like, out here, it's different. You can have up to 100 people. I'm like, oh, okay. That's the other hard thing, especially where I am, because it's, you know, we're on the precipice of lockdown every day. And people out here just do foolish things because you have the heat, you have the outside. You know, they don't take it the way the rest of the country does in certain situations.
Can I ask a question of the room here? And anybody who's watching can answer this question as well in the chat if you want to. How many people grew up around partying, like around partiers? Did you, John? You didn't, John. You totally didn't.
Yeah, no, there wasn't in my immediate family. I mean, these aunts and uncles, I had some there, but not did my.
I mean, you were exposed to it a bit.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, how about you, Jay? You
Not crazy young in high school, yeah, a lot. But
well, in
not,
high school, right?
yeah, but not crazy party. Like if you're going to say what I think you're going to say, not like that.
No, I wasn't going to suggest anything nuts. I'm just saying that I learned from an early age, and this is kind of the philosophy I bring into the events that I do. Yeah, the lighting is great, the hall is great, the sound system's great, but it's really about getting the right people together.
Right.
As long as you get the right people together, I mean,
You can have a good time.
my uncle David could have fun in a cemetery. He could have the time of his life in a cemetery. Of course, he's there now, and I hope he's enjoying it. But at any rate, he could have fun anywhere. It didn't matter. You didn't have to have, the structure of any type to have a good time and have a laugh and whatever. And I guess I take that philosophy into DJing when it comes to parties. I'll have a lot of clients, after the party, they'll come up and they'll say things. Oh, this was amazing. Thank you so much. And I'll say, hey, look, I'd love to take all the credit, but you had a great crowd.
Yeah.
Oh, a great crowd makes our life so easy.
You had a great crowd. They were self-starters.
Bad crowd, forget it.
I didn't have to hold their hands. They would have had fun with or without me. I'm just glad I was here to help.
Oh yeah.
So
but that's, you look at the tamale parties Morrow used to have in Vegas.
Sure.
And times up, in Marshall's suite. We partied. We had a great time. There'd be like anywhere from 5 to 30 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it would go on for hours, and it was just a great, great time.
Sure.
But as much as I want to see that moving forward, it's this stupid 6-foot thing where suddenly there's 4 of us yelling in a room that used to have 20 of us.
We're not going to have control over that. It's just, you touched on that earlier with the, policing this stuff. No, it's not going to happen. But what we can do, and again, it just might be the way it has to be. I mean, it's a structure thing. It's just a structure thing, and cooperative people. I would say to anybody, if there's something that you're not comfortable with doing, don't do it. I don't care if there's a pandemic or not. I mean, I was told that a long time ago. I was told that when I first started doing this, even working for the multi-op, that I never want to put you in a position where you're uncomfortable with a group of people or anything like that. So if you're ever uncomfortable, just say no. I never had to. I can handle about anything. But if I was ever somewhere out of my comfort level, then don't do it. And if you're ever at an event and you feel uncomfortable or unsafe, leave. That was the other thing they told us at the multi-op. Don't even feel bad. Just pack up and go.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take it as a loss, because
That's awesome.
if you're uncomfortable in the event, nothing's worth your safety. Just go.
That's great.
And that's always something that's been in my mind, I guess. So I guess I think about that with events. I have never turned a client down because I felt like what they wanted to do was out of my comfort zone, but we might be there,
I think we're going to be there too late, though. I think the problem is when you're emailing and talking on the phone, everybody is on the same page. We're going to mask for everyone, social distance. And then you get there and you see a bride or a groom look around and go, this isn't what I wanted. And the only thing that's missing the only thing that's been added is the masks. And I know I'm okay. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that EDC canceled. And one of the propositions that EDC was working on, from what I understand, talking to people, and I give them credit, if they could have pulled this off, it would have been mind-blowing. They were going to have ticket holders be tested 1 week out and then day of. And they felt that was the safest way to get people to come. Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
they're trying so hard. Everybody's trying so hard. We're trying
but
so hard.
But that's another question that hasn't been asked. Are we getting to the point where venues or weddings, when tests become more readily available and quicker, are we going to be called a week out? Like out here, you get the call a week or two out going, yeah, can you send us your COI, please, certificate of insurance, and hold us harmless, or add us as a liability,
Yep, listed,
whatever.
yep.
Are we getting to the point where you're going to get a call saying, yeah, hey, Brian, we understand you're DJing here at, Acme venue. We just need your proper address. We're going to FedEx you a test. Please take it and then FedEx it back to us.
Yeah.
I mean, is
I
that,
don't know.
Yeah.
that's not unreasonable to expect vendors to be tested.
You may see that, coming down the road. So, gentlemen, we need to wrap up. It's 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern, and we've gone an hour. So,
It's like 3
Yes.
o'clock here. So
yeah.
I was going to get the CB Shaw's question, but you'll have to come and see us at the chill room. www.djntv/chill will get you in there. So come in there and we'll talk about that Shane Smokers event.
Yeah, just do
that was
this.
one in New York last week. They did a fundraiser in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can chat about that. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. We will be back again next week. Next week, we're actually going to be doing a show more on a tribute to DJ Expo. Next week, we would have all been in Atlantic City with DJ Expo, so we got something special coming up for you next week. Jay is going to play his tambourine. It's going to be fabulous.
I told you guys, I'll say it on air because it might put pressure, but I told you I reached out to Scribble, right?
No, I thought you were going to reach out to Huey Lewis in the news for me.
I'm meeting with Roger tomorrow morning.
I'm not feeling the love if you're not. I'm just going to say it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I'm hoping, and as it stands, if everything goes according to plan, Wednesday night of next week, he's going to do his famous set that he would have done from Ego Lounge.
Nice.
That'd be fun. That'll be fun. So
I would love to check that on Twitch. Turn it up.
The restream the chill room link has been it's floated around. It's in the chat. You guys can go click on it.
Yes.
So jump out there and be part of that, and we will catch you
There it is.
next time, everybody. Good night.
We're going there right now. All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Peace.